On the 13th of September 2025, hundreds of thousands of people gathered in London to protest and counter-protest asylum seekers. The next week, across the UK, smaller protests in the same vein cropped up. This is a story of the weekly protests in the seaside town of Bournemouth. Every Friday since the London protests, the people of Bournemouth have stood outside the Roundhouse Hotel, one of the hotels that is housing asylum seekers. The Bournemouth Patriots organized their protest against asylum seekers. The counter-protests were organized by Stand Up to Racism BCP. Other groups were involved on either side, including people who wished to remain unaffiliated with any organizations.
In my eyes, about fairness. I went to the homeless place in Boston, We Are Human, and I was there and two kids came in and through no fault of their own they're made homeless, and they came and the BCP council told them get a tent from these people and go and park themselves somewhere safe.
In 2025, the total UK budget was £1.3 trillion. Within the government, there are two departments that handle asylum seekers: the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office and the Home Office. Together, the two departments receive £30.9 billion in funding, which is a little over 3% of the total budget. The Home Office spends the most on aiding asylum seekers, spending £4.5 billion. The FCDO spends roughly £28 million on asylum aid. £4.78 billion was spent on asylum aid, which means 0.4% of the total budget was spent on asylum seekers that make up roughly 0.1% of the population. Using this formula, you are able to calculate how much you spent on asylum aid in 2025. We can also estimate how much the majority of people spent on asylum aid. According to HM Revenues and Customs, the mean wage in 2025 was £43,100. Using this as the higher end of average and full-time minimum wage as the lower end of average, we can estimate that the average person spent between £8.70 and £48.85 on asylum aid in 2025.
They use these words, racist, Nazi, to try and silence us, but the problem is they've used it now so much that it doesn't affect anyone because we know it's not true. You know, we do this for the safety of the communities and safety for the country. You know, it is a massive national security risk to allow people into the country we know nothing about.
When interpreting arrest data, it is easy to omit details and figures that go against the point you want to say. Using the arrest data in Dorset from 2021, before asylum seekers were being housed in hotels, we can look at how the left and right would construct their arguments with the same data and come to the opposite conclusion. To start with, we will look at the left's argument. Using the percentage of crimes committed by each group, the left would show a majority of arrests are made against white British people, while less than 1% are made against asylum seeker ethnicities. Left arguments would also show the overall percentage of violent and sexual crimes committed by these two groups. The right's argument would focus on the per-person average, comparing the number of arrests made by the population of each group. This shows that the proportion of arrests made by asylum seeker ethnicities is larger than white British people. In other words, they are arrested more per person. Similarly to the left argument, narrowing it down to the sexual and violent offenses further supports their claim. The problem with this type of data is all of the unanswered questions due to a lack of context. For example, how many arrests were made against the same person? How many were made against asylum seekers? How many of these arrests ended in a conviction? How many unreported crimes have happened? How many instances did police de-escalate or escalate a situation? Too many estimations and assumptions have to be made about the data for it to draw conclusions.
The anger and the vitriol and the misplaced hatred of these people, and a lot of them come when they're coming at you. They're like, I don't hate anybody. I'm just like, they have placed themselves in a situation, in a mental block where they believe that they are doing something.
Democracy from that side is unbelievable. You only have to look at the BLM riots to see the hypocrisy. You know, one man is killed even though he was a drug addict and a woman beater and everything else. You know, you have to look at the hypocrisy from that, because, you know, the so-called right-wing side, they protest because 3 young girls are mass murdered. A few people do a few stupid things. I don't condone it in any way, shape or form, but they do a few stupid acts, you know, but then the media gets hold of it and says that they're bad people, you know.
For 3 months, people stood outside the Roundhouse Hotel protesting for what they believe in. This issue is clearly important to many in the area, which is why I reached out to the local MPs and city councillors for their comments. Unfortunately, they either said no or did not reply. At the start of this, there were some people who wanted to create a compromise and find mutual ground. But as the months went on, this sentiment began to fade.
We'd love nothing more to actually unite. And the problem is with politics now, it's divided people so much, and this is all by design. The governments and the elites and the World Economic Forum and everyone else, they've pitched every single one of us against each other. Now it's time we all come together, because this is a fight of us against the government.
What's the compromise? What subject are you compromising on? Like, if we went to that side and said, oh, what about this? Sometimes they can be a little bit like, no, this is our stance. And then if we say sort of something and word it a little bit incorrect, they go, oh, well, it isn't it? So
the people who you can make compromises with are people who see the humanity, who at a baseline understand that people are not evil because of their immutable characteristics.
Both groups intend to continue their action in the new year, so this is far from over. Who knows what impact it will have in the future?